Okay, so let's get started with our final touch, which is the solution for all the quizzes and my explanation to every of them. Okay, so first, it's suggested that you tag the before you begin video hướng dẫn. Basically, is okay, as I explained before. Okay, it shows you around, but this button here, you can manipulate it and move around different sections of the interactive lessons. Okay, so started with first one. Okay, so this one I don't have to go through it over again, but just before, I forgot to mention this, very important. This is only suitable for level 4.5 and above because you have to have the basic knowledge of few grammar and vocabulary sufficiently enough in order to understand most of the instruction as well as the vocabulary. Okay, so get started with our third slide, which is the main content. All right, so if you have go through the IELTS test before, the speaking, as you know, there are three parts. And for this specific, lesson, I only mentioned, as I told you before, that would be part one. Okay, so let's get started. And if you skip the video, it's fine too. That's not so important. Just for someone who has no idea about what an IELTS speaking test is, then they may have to refer to this. All right. So for number one, I asked you to, to buy you some time. Câu giờ. And still being professionally answer the questions being asked by the examiner, you can perhaps use the fluency markers. Fluency marker like perhaps actually, to be honest, if I must say, something like that is for you to buy some time, but to show your professionalism. Okay. So let's go from, like I said before, you have to go from top to bottom and left to right. Okay, that would be the correct order, to function around this this interactive lesson. Okay, so let's start with first. As I suggest you to do to go through this interactive lesson, please keep in mind because this is about you and you have to be on your own to improve your knowledge, your language. That's why whenever you encounter something that new to you, be independently search for it either on Google by looking up on translates.google.com or you may have to ask someone who know, but we are living in the 4.0 age and you're not going to do that, I know. Okay, so and also please try to keep practicing as many times as possible. For this time, for example, let's try to think because we have the word jog, mean to go to the park, maybe slower than to run. That is a form of exercising. And next to that, we have I go jogging. Okay, I go jogging would be similar. Okay, so these two phrases we can express the same, and they are to show. Let's say a form of exercising. Or I swim at the local pool. Okay, so local pool is a swimming pool, it's also to show one sort of physical activity. However, on the next cues, I would say the phrase is accused, a prompt. the hint for you to answer. Okay. So you're going to be asked something when you push the button sway, spin into the other side. That would be the subjective question. So here you see there are many effort of time on a regular basis, most days, 3 times a week. Okay, so they are effort of times, and they stating something about frequency, how often, right? So you must be asked something relating to what kind of exercise that you frequently do or regularly do. Okay, so that would be my guess. So when I spin it around, okay, what kind of exercise do you regularly uh, do regularly? Okay, so as I expect, when. Okay, so because the question asked about swim, we should answer to swim at the swimming pool, not on the beach. Okay, so if you might prefer, you might try to answer it, but if you don't want to, we still have some following practice sections so you can put up your answer. But keep in mind that would be limited time for you to do so because we need to mark many students as well. Okay, so you may answer like, well, I usually enjoy hitting a gym where I can exercise with weights and, well, I can talk with many different people okay, so so far, so forth. But when I guess so you can be creative with your answer. But let's go through that. Okay, so I'm so sorry that we don't have the second one because this is the redundancies buttons. Okay, so let's ignore it at first. Okay, so then we move on to question 2. Remember that single bold word. Okay, single bold word in the previous question. Okay, so have you paid attention? If not, what I mentioned here is do I have bold word? No. Okay, I do have the right. Okay, so this word is a bold word I mentioned, and if you don't remember, you might perhaps go back or just straight away. Okay, as I stated, in speaking, we call it fluency marker. And there are many of them. Okay, it's not just one single word well, but there are so many of them. Nhấn nút tròn trên để xem lại từ đó. Okay, and tiếp tục với nút bên. So you have to go first on these buttons. Okay, so they ask you question that requires you to fill in the blank. The fluency marker used in previous question is, okay, as we know it is well, but if you don't, you may have to put onto this little buttons with an I as information. It started with W, so it's well. That would be the, sorry, it doesn't accept couple up. Okay, so we may retry. Well, you have to write it in lower cases. All right, so let's carry on. We have our thumb of rule of thumb, sorry, that we have to go to from the top to the bottom, left to right. Okay, so then we go to right, this one. So press the button into the second questions of the question 2. Okay, so we use language. We have the hint saying, this is the instruction. Actually, it's not the hint in instruction. Similarly, we have the following pair of useful language and its suitable question. So you would do the same, but this time I have a different brought into this similar set of question and answer, not answer, but the useful language for you to use it to answer. So this is not fill in the blank, but drop the text into it answer. Okay, so here they have the question: what kind of exercise do you enjoy? Okay, so if you have to say the least, okay, least. It is only one possible answer here because all of the others are not possible. For example, really, what kind of exercise do you enjoy really? Okay, it has to be really enjoy. Do you really enjoy, right? Excuse me. They have the bracket here, and if you are smart enough, okay, I don't say smart enough, but you are, if you are the one who are very conservative and being careful, you might look down because you say because here. So definitely, obviously, it had to be something related to the question word why, right? Okay, so I put why here, say why. All right, so you may have to try to answer with the different language for the answer. The thing I, okay, so for this sentence particularly, there are two elements it is lacking of. First, uh, it is a verb, right? The verb is really essential for this case because this is this is the one way not to construct um, more complicated structure. The thing I blah blah blah. Again, because mean the verb. The thing I hate is, so is the following phrase will state what thing that you hate. So I must have the verb first, but here I have hate, right, and can't stand. Uh, so it's go only one place and it must be here, but before that it has to have something else, which is the adverb. Okay, how do you hate something? How do you can't stand something? Okay, so it's really the thing I really, okay, so either way can't stand or hate is possible here, but let's pick hate. The thing I really hate is, okay, if I try to answer the above question is something like the thing I really hate is getting up. Okay, they asked about exercise. Sorry. The thing I really hate is having to get up really early in order to work out. Either it is a park or in your front yard. It's ridiculously tired and I don't really enjoy the feeling sweating all over and being freaking tired in class. Okay, perhaps I might answer something like that. Next, I have I in between and not nothing else. Okay. All right. So now I have to attack a wide guess. Say monotonous is an adjective, constant in the beginning. Constant, okay, it's definitely the only verb that, okay, possibly it has to be here. All right, so sorry, it has to be here because here again we see the patterns really, and we have to put I just constant. I guess it's softened the constant a bit because if you, okay, for this one particularly, if you say I can't stand something, it means it show your extremities of how you hate something, how you don't like something. The okay, it increases the level of hatred into something I can't stand. But if you put just here, I just can't stand. Okay, it's softened a bit, but it's not so much. Okay, it's still more than if we measure the level. How do you hate something? It's more than being hate. Okay, sorry, it more than hate something or dislike something. Okay. So what's here? I'm afraid. Okay, I'm afraid. I just can't stand. Okay, just being polite and being nature. Monotonous. Okay, so we have a new word here. If it's not new to you, congratulations. But if it's new, monotonous mean something really boring, mundane. Okay, so we have another word, mundane. Mundane. Mundane also mean not something extraordinary. It's very boring. It's repetitive and monotonous. Also share a similar meaning. Okay, so if we get everything correct, so we get 8/8. All right, so I might have to close it and proceed to question 3. With question 3, if I have to remind you, we have so many fluency markers so far, right? And because we not going to bring it up for today, wrap it up for today, perhaps for the next following video or lesson, I will wrap it up and maybe we can form some sort of vocabularies and then we categorize them into different groups and to facilitate different uses perhaps. Okay, so let's leave for now. So in question 3, I also asked you something to talk about interest. And for that reason, I have a little quiz here. Okay, so we have to, on the way, although this one is just a lead-in, it means there's nothing about theories. It's something just refreshing, but on the way, you need to learn something new to do, especially new words. Okay, so show your disinterest means you hate, you don't like, you dislike something. Okay, I can say if you disinterest something, hate on the list. As you know, can't stand also disinterest. Something that boring, monotonous, repetitive. Okay, so this is not on the list. It's not what we have learned, but since it is something that you usually encounter in IELTS, so I put it here. They are not expressions it should be expressions in relation with interest. They are discord markers. So either I say discord markers or fluency markers in this specific lesson share the same meaning. Okay. So I just is okay, this one and really also this one, I'm afraid also this one. So as you have go through the lead-ins, you somehow understand that for the next lesson, we will focus on the fluency markers or discord markers into different uses of it. But for now, you may have some really brief idea of what it is to be discord marker, right? Discord marker, right? And well, I have put up one video which relate to discord marker and some useful resources I found on internet. Fluency markers here. Okay, so on to our fourth slide. You can so you can watch the video, or if you pay much attention. Okay, so why it's not going to the first one? It's weird though. Right, so let me figure it out, but something is wrong here. And if you go to our third slide, which is bài giảng, and it should be somewhere here. Okay, so alright, sorry, we were still in we just finished this one, right? And we haven't finished the last one. I'm sorry. For the last one, we still have one question. That would be leading question. But before we go deep into different criteria or language focuses, you should go through this video onto my quick thoughts of using fluency marker in Irish speaking, because the words well or actually they are overused, and that is not how a native speaker they speak, and you should avoid using it many times in Irish speaking. Okay, so let me just check my phone for a bit. So sorry, but right, so here also this one is a bit harder than the previous one because you have to guess the word. The words are not provided, so you can pull them into the places, but you have to guess the word. So what kind of exercise? Here we have to put what kind of exercise? Okay. Right, so we have to have auxiliaries, right? Auxiliaries. But in this case, if you use the auxiliaries like we put in the simple present, it should be what kind of exercise do you do more, right? But because the tip here say it is a modal verb to express advice, so it might be should. Alright, what kind of exercise should you do more? Okay, so here it's weird because I have put up the hint here, but I don't know why didn't it appear here. Okay, do you do more often? And also say why. I hope. Okay, here's the tip. Synonymous to should, so ought to. I ought to walk more often. Is it often? No. Oh, this marker start with B to show contradictions. Alright, so because we have another clause here, so we have but. I take the bus because, okay. I ever so how often use something starting with I always take the bus because, okay, if you try to answer the above, you say I ought to walk more, but I always take the bus because my school is rather far away from my house. If I could ever walk, I'm afraid I might be late for the class, or I may appear sweat all over in class. Okay, something like that. I quickly start to think of the answer. I should play tennis more. Okay, so do you know more should be something like frequencies, ever frequencies that starting with F. It should be starting with F. More frequently. Okay, so it should be frequently, or else should not be start with F. Okay, maybe I make a mistake here. It should be start with O because it often, more often. Alright, so it's messed up here. So it's supposed to have another questions here. Not question, but a blank here to say excuse. Okay, so this one, let me check. Should be like I should play tennis more often, but I'm always making excuses not to play. Okay, so we miss one here, and the answer here should be often. Okay, so some system errors. Alright, so if you have finished everything, you may perhaps go and try to drop up, try to put it into your vocabulary books, and anticipately for tomorrow I will upload our second part of this speaking lesson. Thank you for enjoying our application.